afternoon, Democrats. I am amazed how, in classic veteran fashion, everybody is awake and sharp after being up past our bedtimes and up earlier than you can think of. I haven't been through this, never mind range day, I haven't been through this kind of sleep deprivation since our kids were kind of pre-sleep training. And yet the energy is palpable. You can feel it right now. Right? Can't you just feel the vibes, otherwise known as morale, is off the charts right now in the Democratic Party? And I'm so excited to have a moment just to speak first and foremost to say thank you for your service. And to join you in remembering that the only appropriate thing to say about the service of another veteran from a veteran to a veteran is thank you for your service. And our friends on the other side need a little reminding of that right now. Look, I remember what it was like when there was something kind of exotic about the idea of people who care about national security, felt strongly about national security, and served, revealing that they were Democrats. And there have even been times when in progressive and Democratic circles, you felt like you had to kind of think twice about whether to reveal yourself to be a veteran or somebody who believed in strong national security. But we have changed that season in which Republicans somehow tried to monopolize the idea of patriotism as if the flag belonged to a political party and remind everybody that there is nothing partisan, no party owns patriotism in this country. We're reclaiming a lot of that ground. Just like we've reminded our friends that God does not belong to a political party in the United States of America. And just like we Democrats have rightly leaned into the importance of freedom as what we are about, because sometimes our conservative friends talk and think about freedom as if government was the only thing that could make you unfree, as if all there was to freedom was freedom from regulations or corporate taxes. But we know, especially those who have served know, that it takes a lot more than that to secure freedom. It's true in our domestic policy, that you're not free if you don't have the infrastructure to get you clean water and a road to where you're going. That you're not free if you fear that the next health care bill could bankrupt your family. That's about freedom too. And you're definitely not free as a woman in this country if some politician gets to tell you what your health care choices ought to be. But then, freedom around the world, which the Biden-Harris administration has stood up resolutely to defend, and which the Harris-Walz administration will as well. That's what's at stake in things like supporting the fight for freedom in democracy in Ukraine is all about. We don't have to send troops there. We're supporting them so that our troops don't have to be on the front lines of the next fight for freedom and democracy. That's why we stand with NATO. That's why we stand with our allies. That's why we stand with our friends. Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and Democrats up and down the ticket understand that. There's something else that veterans bring to the picture. I was just at another veterans event across town just a little while ago and wound up seeing a couple of the guys that I had served with and just felt like, as you know, you're immediately plunged back into your old roles and your old sense of humor, none of which I will repeat from this microphone. But also that sense of trust which is in such short supply in this country, that is built through service, through an authentic understanding that it is all about what you can do to support each other and to support others. Because I'll tell you, anytime we went outside the wire, the people who got into the vehicle with me didn't care whether I was a Democrat or a Republican. They didn't care what country my dad immigrated from. They didn't care whether I was going home to a girlfriend or a boyfriend. They just wanted to know that I'd read the intel briefs on the route and that I knew what to do if we had a problem. And vice versa. We trusted each other with our lives on the strength of a handshake with nothing in common but the flag on our shoulder. We need more of that right now in this country. And we are ready to stand up for more of that. It's what the other side doesn't get. And you can tell from the despicable way that the top of their ticket talks about people who earned the Medal of Honor. The weird way that he talks about the service of others. But there's a through line that goes all the way back to the days when Donald Trump used his status as a teenage multimillionaire to procure a doctor's note to pretend that he was unable to serve so that some working class kid from who knows, maybe the south side of Chicago went to Vietnam in his place. There is an unbroken pattern right there of not being able to grasp service to others. Veterans understand service to others. Today's Democrats understand service to others. Joe Biden understands service to others, which is why the words that rang truest from his speech were that it's not about him, it's about you. He loves his job, but he loves this country more, and did an unbelievable thing, laying aside power and opening the way to a new generation for no other reason than it was the right thing to do. But he has also made it clear, as long as he draws breath, he will back veterans and military families, and a Harris-Walz administration will build on that record. I got to tell you, I've had a lot of emotional moments in Washington, a lot of proud moments in Washington, but the only time I've shed a tear in the East Room of the White House was when I was on hand to be there when President Biden and Vice President Harris marked the signing of the PACT Act that did right by those veterans who were downwind of those burn pits. Couldn't be more different from this Project 2025 and what they're proposing to do that would cut jobs that so many veterans serve in, that would endanger health care. By the way, first time in history I can think of when a major scandal for a political party wasn't a sex scandal. They had one of those too. It wasn't a criminal cover-up, although it was merely the publication of their own policy plans, right? The policies couldn't be different, but also the leaders couldn't be more different. We've got the right leaders. We've got the right leaders in Kamala Harris, and we got the right leader in Tim Walz. I am excited to have a veteran. I'm excited to have a Midwesterner, but frankly, I'm especially excited to have an NCO on the ticket. I knew back when I was Lieutenant Pete that I wasn't going to get anything right unless the gunny sitting next to me, the Marines loaned to us, was going to have my back, and he always did. An NCO understands service. In fact, the whole through line of Tim Walz's career, what it all has in common is about being there for others. It's the right way to approach being in Congress. It's the right way to approach being governor, but he's been that way his whole career. I have seen so many campaigns, so many parties spend so many millions on consultants and advertising in order to try to make their candidate seem like the kind of guy who would be a football coach and a teacher and a National Guardsman. Tim Walz literally is that guy. He's the real deal. I knew that ever since I met him literally standing next to a life-size butter sculpture at the Minnesota State Fair. What you see is what you get. And what you see is somebody who understands that it's not about him. This is why Donald Trump and J.D. Vance literally can't figure out what to do with him. Because it doesn't compute that you would live and work for others. But that's how it is. His whole career, the measure of a great teacher is the success of their students. The measure of a football coach is the performance of your team. And yes, the measure of a sergeant is the well-being and the readiness and the effectiveness of your soldiers. He understands that, and he will bring that spirit to the White House as America's sergeant. Now also, just as an officer doesn't get very far without a great senior NCO, and a commander doesn't get very far without a really good XO, any of us in politics who have had to figure out how to stay who you are while being out on that stage and serving others needs a spouse who is a rock, who shares their values, and who themselves is an extraordinary leader. And one of the things I'm really enjoying about these last few days and weeks is America getting to know the next Second Lady of the United States, Gwen Walz. A teacher, a leader, somebody who will be a great moral force in this country, in the White House. Please welcome our next Second Lady, Gwen Walz.